Bismillahir Rahmanir Rahim. Good evening. You're watching the news from the Sultanate of Oman television. First, the headlines. The Sultanate welcomes the framework deal between the 6 countries and Iran and stresses it will create peace in the region and the world. Iranians celebrate their country's historical nuclear deal as countries around the world welcome it.
Security Council resolution.
And Sultanate celebrations continue in various wilayas and governorates on the return of His Majesty the Sultan. Good evening once again, and thank you for joining us. Those were the headlines, and now the news in details. His Majesty Sultan Qaboos has sent a cable of greetings to His Excellency President Macky Sall of Senegal on his country's National Day. The Ministry of Foreign Affairs today issued a statement regarding a framework deal between the 6 countries and Iran concerning Iranian nuclear program, which was announced last night in Lausanne, Switzerland. The Sultanate followed by great concern the positive results which led to a framework deal between the major 6 countries and Iran. The Sultanate participates with all countries and peoples' great happiness of this historical deal, which will form main and important stage on the path of final deal by June 30th, which will also open a new stage towards more regional and international security and stability. In this regard, the Sultanate expresses its great appreciation for the major 6 countries and Iran for this historical deal achievement, understanding and security responsibility which negotiators enjoyed during recent days and years. Celebrations were held in a number of Iranian cities, and a large crowd gave a hero's welcome to the Iranian delegation for the historical deal, which will end a period of waiting and stalemate in relations between Iran and the international community and pave the way to lift international sanctions which burdened the Iranian economy. After marathon negotiations, the United States, Iran, and 5 other world powers announced a deal outlining limits of Iran's nuclear program. Reactions were voiced internationally welcoming the deal.
Today, we have reached a critical milestone in that quest. We, our P5+1 EU partners, and Iran have arrived at a consensus on the key parameters of an arrangement that, once implemented, will give the international community confidence that Iran's nuclear program is and will remain exclusively peaceful, that the political understanding with details that we have reached is a solid foundation for the good deal that we are seeking. It is the foundation for a deal that will see Iran reduce its stockpile of enriched uranium by 98% for 15 years. It is a deal in which Iran will cut its installed centrifuges by more than 2/3 for 10 years. It is a deal that will increase Iran's breakout time, which was confirmed publicly today to be 2 to 3 months. And that is the time that it would take Iran to speed up its enrichment in order to produce enough fissile material for 1 potential nuclear weapon. And that will be expanded now under this deal to 1 year from those 2 to 3 months.
When we implement our measures, there won't be no sanctions against the Islamic Republic of Iran. And that, I think, would be a major step forward. We have stopped a cycle that was not in the interest of anybody, not in the interest of non-proliferation, and not in the interest of anybody, to one that will, in fact, be a gain for all parties concerned. And I hope that at the end of this process, we will all show that through dialogue and engagement with dignity, we can, in fact, resolve problems, open new horizons, and move forward. Thank you very much.
The tentative agreement struck last night after 8 days of talks in Switzerland clears the way for negotiations on a settlement aimed at allaying Western fears that Iran was seeking to build an atomic bomb and in return lift economic sanctions on Iran. Under the outlined deal, Iran would shut more than two-thirds of its installed centrifuges capable of producing uranium that could be used to build a bomb, dismantle a reactor that could produce plutonium, and accept intrusive verification. One of the most sensitive issues during the negotiations, Iran's research and development work, will also be limited. Iran would gradually receive relief of economic sanctions from US and European Union if it complies with the terms of a final deal. Some United Nations Security Council sanctions would be gradually lifted through, though others would remain in place. In Yemen, Houthis forces pulled back from central Aden districts today, and warplanes from the coalition dropped weapons and medical aid to fighters defending the southern Yemeni city. The Houthi fighters and their allies withdrew from Quetta neighborhoods, as well as one of Aden's presidential residence, which they seized a day earlier. The withdrawal followed overnight clashes and an airstrike on the presidential palace at Ma'ashiq overlooking Quetta. At least one Houthi tank was destroyed and another taken over by President Abdul Rabbu Mansour Hadi's loyalists. Palestinian officials and activists say Daesh militants are battling against armed groups inside a refugee camp in the Syrian capital Damascus and have made new advances inside the camp. The militants stormed the Yarmouk camp on Wednesday, marking the extremist group's deepest foray yet into Damascus. They were expelled Thursday, but officials said they re-entered the camp today. 6 people were killed and 17 others were wounded in the clashes. It is Daesh's first major presence in the area around the capital and home to other insurgents. Still to come in our news bulletin. Arrival of lions in Abidjan Zoo signals hope for its bright future. Welcome back to the news from the Sultanate of Oman television. The shooting range in the Wilayah of Nakhal witnessed a huge participation in the shooting competition. More details in the following report by Saif bin Khalfan Al-Kindi.
The shooting range at the Wilayah of Nakhal witnessed a huge crowd gathering to compete the second shooting session.
As you see, day after day in Nakhal, we are celebrating. The celebrating is not going to stop in our state. We are celebrating day after day. Today we were celebrating the shooting guns performance.
His Excellency Nasser bin Sulaiman Al-Sebani, Deputy Chairman of Public Authority for Radio and Television, gave the first shooting to inaugurate the start of the competition. High demands and intensive rivalry was remarkable during the first sessions of every stage, particularly the well-classified teams from Al-Dhahira of Maskin, Nakhal, South Batina and Dhufar team.
As you see in this shooting range, many participants came from around the wilayahs around Oman and from outside Oman, also from the Gulf, and they came here to do their performance and to participate also the coming of His Majesty Sultan Qaboos Said al-Mu'azzam.
The 4 teams will join the semi-final tomorrow morning before they compete for the overall session.
It was big challenge today, but I am really very happy to participate in this shooting range.
During the opening ceremony, children from Nakhal Women's Society performed songs and dances, showing their greetings to the audience and participants. The traditional bands also played Omani folks and dances in order to motivate the shooters and involve the audience to take part in the ceremony.
Several participants have been competing each other in the shooting range performed today. The local traditional bands have been also performing very well while dancing and singing their traditional rhymes. Saif Al-Kindi for English News, Nakhal.
Citizens in various governorates and wilayas of the Sultanate continued their celebrations on the blessed return of His Majesty Sultan Qaboos. The citizens of the wilaya of Dalhut went in a huge procession amid happiness and meanings of loyalty and gratitude. It witnessed a participation from members of the society, including men and women, cheering sincere greetings and best wishes to His Majesty, the beloved leader. The event accompanied by Omani traditional arts. People of the wilayas of Shlim and Halaniyat Island organized a procession of loyalty and gratitude accompanied by traditional arts, where the citizens expressed their happiness to see His Majesty in good health, praying to Almighty to protect the builder of the Oman's blessed renaissance. Huge crowds of citizens participated in the procession, carrying pictures of His Majesty and hoisting flags of the Sultanate, cheering sincere greetings and best wishes to His Majesty, the beloved leader. A national operator was held in Marouj Theatre in Salalah in the Governorate of Dhofar on the occasion of safe return of His Majesty the Sultan. It was presided over by His Excellency Sayyid Mohammed bin Sultan Al Busaidi, Minister of State and Governor of Dhofar. It witnessed a huge participation from members of the society. During the event, school students and the youth performed various artistic shows, national songs, Omani traditional arts and poems. The operator was accompanied by an arts exhibition that included more than 144 portraits of His Majesty the Sultan and other artistic pictures. The participants expressed sincere feelings and overwhelming happiness on His Majesty's safe return to the dear homeland. Rejoicing the safe return of His Majesty the Sultan, a national poetic evening was held in the wilaya of Sohar. It witnessed participation from a number of Omani and Arab poets, as well as those interested in national poems. The poets delivered poems praising His Majesty the Sultan and the achievements realized during His Majesty's glorious reign at all levels and walks of life. They also expressed their sincere feelings and overwhelming happiness on His Majesty's safe return to the dear homeland. The civil service employment examination started in the Governorate of Al Buremi. Around 100 job seekers competed for 12 vacancies announced recently. The employment examination are conducted in transparent atmosphere as per the rules and procedures of Central Employment System without interference of human. After the exams were finished, the results were displayed immediately to show those passing the test. The daily trading value of Muscat Securities Market MSM increased due to the entering and reinvestment of a new liquidity in the market. The decrease in the share prices in the market compared to global markets opened huge investment opportunities in MSM. The market added 155 points, recording an increase where the investors traded more than 142 shares. And finally, animals at the National Zoo of Abidjan in Ivory Coast have faced a number of challenges in recent years, but the arrival of 3 new lions mark a turning point for the zoo. Here is a report.
After years without one of its main attractions, Ivory Coast's National Zoo of Abidjan is once more roaring into life. The The delivery of 3 big cats from South Africa, 2 females and 1 male, is at last filling a void left after the zoo's previous feline residents died during the unrest following elections in November 2010.
The lions died before our eyes because we had nothing to feed them. They only eat meat. We didn't even know how to feed ourselves.
More than 3,000 people died during Ivory Coast's post-political conflict, and only a handful of the zoo's residents survived. And conflict hasn't been the only killer here. Around a dozen animals died from toxic waste poisoning, and a number of monkeys were abandoned when owners feared they were carrying Ebola. Despite the challenges, the zoo's director is optimistic about its future.
The National Zoo of Abidjan will become a zoo when all the international norms are in place. That means that all the animals in cages will be able to go into semi-natural areas, which are closed, but don't give the impression that a chimpanzee is in a prison.
With zebras, giraffes and other cats soon to arrive, it's hoped the zoo will serve as a mini safari in the heart of Ivory Coast's economic capital. The first few visitors haven't been disappointed.
I see lions all the time on TV, but I've never seen them in real life. I feel blessed. I'm really happy.
As one of West Africa's largest zoos dating back to the 30s, there's also a cultural heritage to be preserved. The arrival of the 3 cats is a powerful symbol of the zoo's rebirth and a future built on pride.
And now for the general weather forecast. Dusty skies will prevail over the Sultanate, gradually improving the horizontal visibility, and chances of dust-raising winds in the desert and open areas. Winds will be northwesterly moderate to active, and it will be southwesterly moderate to active along the southeastern coast. Seas will be moderate to rough along most of the coast, with a maximum wave height of 3 meters. This is the Sultanate of Oman television. And now, before we end tonight's bulletin, here are the main points once again. The Sultanate welcomes the framework deal between the 6 countries and Iran and stresses it will create a peace in the region and the world. Iranian celebrates their country's historical nuclear deal as countries around the world welcome it.
Security Council resolution will...
And Sultanate celebrations continue in various wilayas and governorates on the return of His Majesty the Sultan. With that, we come to an end of tonight's news bulletin. From all of us here at the newsroom and the studios, it's good night.